And Jill, whenever you're ready.
Okay, great, terrific. Here we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Oh yeah, you're loud.
Okay, great. Is it possible to move into camera view so
You can't see anybody.
Station. Is that possible?
Yes.
Just squeeze in. Okay. I see Howie. I see LeBeau. I see a couple others. Okay, awesome. Yeah, this would be great. Makes me feel like I'm in the room if I can actually see you. All right, awesome. So I'll just see second to see if you can slide over.
All right, that works.
Okay, great. All right, I see a few awesome shining faces, and it's really an honor to be able to be in the room with you and to thank you for being here. This is what democracy looks like. The future's in our hands. Ain't no one else gonna do it. We really are the ones we've been waiting for. And there could not be a better time. This is, an extraordinary historic moment. I think we all know that we're facing unprecedented crisis and opportunity. We got them both right here before us. And, we have a job to do. We happen to be here at this particular moment in history where we really get to decide, not what kind of future there will be, but whether there will be a future or not. We get to lead the charge here, and as Greens, we've been doing that, really setting the bar high for America and a world that works for all of us. As we know, at this particular time, empire is doubling down like we've never seen, with endless war, austerity, assaults on Mother Earth and our democracy. But at the same time, people are rising up like we haven't seen for generations. And that means, to stop the pipelines, to stop police brutality, to stop deportations. And now there's a whole new wave of resistance with the youth-led climate movement, which is bringing out 1.5 million people into the streets who are boycotting school. We are seeing the Extinction Rebellion, which is putting bodies on the line by the thousands. And we're seeing the revolt of labor now, like we haven't seen in many decades. And whether it's the teachers or the nurses or Macy's or Stop and Shop, incredibly courageous working people are really leading the charge, for the most part against the wishes of their union leadership, and also to some extent bucking their Democratic Party bosses as well by really standing up for the needs of working people. So in many ways, we're in a moment of rebellion right now. It's not that the rebellion is coming; the rebellion is here. It's happening now, and it needs a political home. Yeah. And as we know, the Democrats, the Republicans don't have they don't have skin in this game whatsoever, but Democrats have had the illusion of supporting the progressive cause. But in fact, for decades, they've really abandoned the progressive cause, and the figureheads of progressive leadership have been systematically sabotaged one after the other. Whether you're looking at Bernie Sanders or Dennis Kucinich before him, or Al Sharpton, or Jesse Jackson, all the way back to Henry Wallace. Does that name ring bells? From
Vice President.
From just after the Second World War, well, actually, near the end of the Second World War, when the microphone was shut off on him and a fire emergency was declared so that he would not be nominated as the vice president in FDR's last run. He was a very unabashed internationalist and socialist who, really could run circles around Bernie Sanders, and the nomination was going to him. And it really took this all-out effort by the Daley administration in Chicago to shut down the Democratic convention. And they did, just as his nomination was about to be made. So, this is not something new. This is what's gone on for a long time. Since the New Deal, the Democrats have really been rolling back the New Deal. And, it's really hard to buy into, for myself at least, it's very hard to buy into this mythology that the Democrats are going to get us out of here alive. They're really not. And it's important, to recognize there is a political vacuum here in the progressive space. And, with the plans proceeding now with the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party, which is more of a corporate party than it has been in recent history. The Blue Wave in 2018 was really a corporate wave. Currently, Congress, the Democrats as well as the Republicans are upping the ante on the Trump military budget, establishing an even bigger military budget last year than even Trump had asked for. And this year, we are not putting resistance to that military budget in the least. And in fact, 75% of Congress recently sent a letter urging Trump to basically double down on Syria and throw more blood and treasure into that, incredible catastrophe. We've been kind of greened out here, which it's important not to take at face value. Remember, over 60% of Americans are calling for another major party. Over 100 million Americans are not voting, essentially voting with their feet by saying that they do not support either of the corporate parties being rammed down our throats. So there is a rebellion that's happening. It's looking for a political home, and here it is. And I want to just give a big thank you to everyone who's here today. So, as you know, the crises are converging and intensifying. So it's not only that there is no other option, but that the imperative for us to stand up politically and take the reins of government and of the future into our own hands, that is stronger than ever. And as we know, the economy is not in a recovery. It's Wall Street that's been in a recovery since 2008. Anybody there think the economy has recovered? Has it recovered for you? Not for most Americans, and certainly not Greens, who really represent the ordinary working Americans. Half of Americans are in or near poverty. About as many lack adequate health care, so they don't have insurance or they can't afford to use the insurance that they have. 80% are living paycheck to paycheck. As you know, 3 billionaires in America now have the wealth equivalent to half of America. And if you look globally at the trends, this stuff is not getting better. It's not getting better in the U.S. either. In the recent annual review published by Oxfam, what they found was that the poor who've been beaten back so mercilessly, their wealth, the wealth of like the lower 50%, is actually declining and has gone down by 12% over the last year, at the same time that the 1% gained 12%. So clearly, we are not making progress. Even when we had a Democratic president with 2 Democratic houses of Congress, it was not fundamentally different. The store, Obama gave away the store, as did Congress, to Wall Street, which is why Congress then flipped from blue to red because people were so pissed off. And even now, the Democrats are largely focused on Trump hating and Russia baiting instead of really fighting for everyday Americans, for working people, for the poor, for the middle class, for people of color who continue to be marginalized and on the firing line with all of the economic disparities greatly magnified by the unconscionable racial spirit. So the economy continues to go into a deep crisis. War continues to expand. 60% of our budget now and growing. $1 trillion a year and growing. We're not solving our problems. We're essentially squandering our resources with which we could solve these problems. Climate emergency accelerates, and by any measure, we're out of time. The recent UN report told us that we have basically a decade in which to cut emissions, global emissions, in half, or essentially our boost is close here. And that emissions cut by 50% in order to achieve that globally, we've got to do more as the wealthiest nation in the world. We've got to eliminate our carbon emissions in the 10 years. And that's what we've been leading the charge for as Greens. And it's a credit to everyone in the room here that we've been leading the charge on the whole agenda. It's a tribute to us Greens that the Democrats have essentially adopted, or you might say mimicked, our agenda. I think we're not just changing the debate, we're actually winning the debate. When you look at the Green New Deal, looking at free public higher education, looking at a bailout for student debt, which they ridiculed me for, John Oliver, thank you very much. Are you going to be ridiculing Elizabeth Warren now, who's basically taken our proposal and said as much? Whether you're looking at Medicare for all, and likewise on ranked choice voting, or proportional representation, which are critical to break the stranglehold of the parties of war and Wall Street. We need ranked choice voting to essentially open the floodgates of democracy, because the largest block of voters are not voting, and they are basically waiting to hear that they have an option, that they have actually a real green option that can deliver for them and with them, and really to lift up their voices in their agenda. So I'll just close here in saying that the tools really are in our hands. We don't have to go searching for them. The Green New Deal is really a detailed plan, and we owe a lot to Howie Hawkins in the room here for first articulating the details of the Green New Deal back in 2010. For doing that, and then the many Greens around the country who began to lift up this comprehensive, detailed blueprint, really a green print, for how we get out of here alive. And, in extraordinary detail. We don't have to figure out how to do this. What we've got to figure out is how to take the power to do that. And what just happened, last week in the EU, I think goes a long way to say how this happens. There really is a youth-led climate movement that is breaking out right now, and it's really important for them to know that their home is here with a political party that actually supports the Green Deal. It's true there are some Democrats who support the Green New Deal in part, not to the degree that we do, which actually is the critical difference as to whether or not we're really going to solve this problem. And let me just note, another report came out just recently saying news, which is very important in Florida, where you're kind of at ground zero, at sea level. That news was that at the end of the century, there's actually right now a 5% chance of a 6-foot sea level rise, which is kind of goodbye Florida, as well as goodbye global cities around the world. It means almost 200 million climate refugees from that alone. And what does a 5% chance mean? And I also have to say that the science advances. So right now it's 5%, but 10 years from now, the science will be that much better and it'll tell us, well, it's actually a 50% chance, so it's really important to stay ahead of the science. But even if we assumed it was just 5%, what does that mean? Would you get on an airplane or put your family on an airplane if you knew that there was a 5% chance that airplane was going to go down? I think most people in their right mind wouldn't get anywhere near that airplane with a 5% chance. And that just, again, I think underscores why the science is really telling us that we need to actually do what it takes right now to ensure that we solve this problem. That's what the Green New Deal will do. That's what Medicare for All will do. That's what free public higher education will do. That is what student debt bailout will do. And because we've just seen Europe show us that this youth movement is transformative and it will make the difference, like right now, is all the more powerful in this country, because young people are dealing not only with the climate crisis in this country, but also with the debt crisis. So there's double the incentive for young people to mobilize. And I just want to put that out as a very important practical consideration as we consider how we're going to move forward. And as we make plans as local chapters and as state chapters and nationally about how we move forward, how our candidates frame their campaigns, how we work to integrate social movements with our political campaigns that really empower each other and make each other stronger. Ranked choice voting, I think, is another slam dunk for us because it breaks the stranglehold and it essentially makes obsolete this fear-mongering that is thrown against us. We don't actually take votes away from Democrats. The science and the polls show this. We don't take votes, we don't split vote. We expand the vote by bringing in people who otherwise won't go to the polls. That's what we do. So don't let them blame you and shame you. Don't let them fearmonger you or propagandize you into apologizing for standing up for our future in the only way that our future can be saved, which is by us as everyday ordinary people standing up. Because whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or some other centrist candidate that the Democrats are putting forward, we really know where that takes us. It's not like they're suddenly going to change course here after 80 years or so of their centrist, increasingly corporate strategy dominated by war profiteers, by Wall Street, and by fossil fuel giants. We really have what it takes. We need the confidence of our convictions to keep this going, to stand up, and to actually lead the way forward. The Greens are surging in the EU. There's every reason for them to surge here. In Germany, 9 out of the 10 largest cities went majority Green in this last election. That was technically correct that to say number 1 Green, because we have many parties, they don't really run as majorities, but their largest voting bloc in those 9 out of 10 urban centers was green. Same thing's been happening in the Netherlands for a while. Germany is very close to that now as well. You know, Greens are doubling and tripling their representation in their votes. In the Netherlands, the Greens are now the second party in Parliament. So, you know, we are breaking through. In Canada, we're now the second party in PEI, in Prince Edward Island. So this happens because we're standing up for the right stuff, because we are leading the way forward. Do not let them talk you into powerlessness and hopelessness. In fact, they are silencing us and greening us out because we are powerful, because they are quaking in their boots, because they know that change is coming and change is green. It's really important for us to take our responsibility seriously, to double down, and for us to organize, which has been kind of a missing link. But I think a lot of Greens are tuning into this now. We don't want to just mobilize. We need to organize. We need to be systemic about it and pragmatic about it. We need to get to work. The future's in our hands. It's time to take it back and make it healthy, just, sustainable, and green. Thank you all for all you've done to make that. Guidance here, LeBeau. Is there time for a couple questions?
Yeah, we have time for a couple questions.
Are you going to break and move on?
We got 10 minutes.
The very exciting presidential debate that everybody should stay tuned for, no matter what's coming next. This is a really exciting and important discussion that everyone should be at the edge of their seat for. And LeBeau, you can just fill me in on what happens next.
Sunny is going to field some questions for you.
Yes,
for
I do.
up to 10 minutes.
Okay.
You have a hard up in 10 minutes, all right?
Great, sounds good.
Can you? Okay. Can you see me?
I can, yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. We adore you. Thank you so much for giving us this time. And actually, I would like to kind of frame this entire the rest of this evening as this people here need to kind of know what you and the party can do to help train us to go out into the community and get those candidates so we can have that backfill, as you were saying. It's also to get our outreach to more Greens. So on that, the first question was, what do you think our party needs to do to gain that momentum?
Great. So I think we need to plug in, we need to double down, we need to fight for the greener good like our lives depend on it. You know, and I think lots of Greens get that. I think this is about redoubling our commitment to participate in our local parties and in our state parties. And we really need people to fill out the backbone. You know, I think we need to get serious about having parties where we track our membership. I think dues is a really good idea. I think that trainings are really important. And like Anna saying hello here, you might see her he likes participating in these green discussions. I just can't keep him away. Sorry.
You were saying that we have training that needs to come.
That's right. And I think you can look to the CCC, which has begun to do some good training, and I'm hoping they're going to do more. I'm encouraging people to come to the annual national meeting, because we'll be doing a lot of skill building there. Those who are, who are participating in the national committee, We're working to be more effective at the national level to be sure that we are passing these tools on down. So what I want to say right now is we are all, I think, jumping on board this really critical discussion, and you have framed it perfectly. This is about getting organized and building our skills for organizing so we can reach out. And I just want to say, in my own view, I think especially that movement building and collaboration with the various movements that are going strong where you live. All politics is local. So whether it's the pushing back against this felon disenfranchisement, this new poll tax, which is going to limit the re-enfranchisement of people of color, of felons, and particularly felons of color, that's really critical. I think working to harness the youth movement in its various forms, and that may be as a climate movement, it may be as student debt. The youth movement is always transformative, and that's really where the leading edge is. It's just so important that we engage youth around us, and that means finding out where they are, and that's especially Latino and African American youth and people fighting against police brutality. We know these issues so well. Learning how to get out, be of support, and build solidarity, which is both issue-based and political, and grow our campaigns and our candidates. Kind of the name of the game. We're getting better at it. We're learning to recognize our needs, which are really skill-based needs for organizing. That's kind of where we all are right now, so let's keep growing and sharing together.
So one of the things that you were talking about earlier was to create these intersections, because we know what we're doing. We know that there's a grassroots group over there that knows what they're doing, but none of them talk to each other. So what I'm hoping to hear from you is that we need to get those youth groups in with the climate groups. We need to people that normally don't talk to each other. We as Greens could really have a service to our community by being that conduit that actually brings these people together, all of these grassroots groups, because they don't have any leadership either.
Exactly.
So
and I think our agenda is sort of the perfect place for groups to come together, because the Green New Deal, for example, it addresses student debt, it addresses free higher education, it is healthcare, it is racial justice, it is democracy, it's jobs, and the climate, so
it's at home for all of these people who are very much enamored, they're passionate about it, and they're looking for someone to lead them, so we can be that, yes?
Exactly, and I think we don't want to underestimate the disillusionment with existing political parties. They have AstroTurf.
That's my next question.
AstroTurf. And people whose eyes are open, they don't buy into AstroTurf. It's just too slick. It's too doomed. Its agenda is too tightly constrained and top down. I'd say there's a monstrous propaganda campaign going on right now to try to discourage us, disillusion us, and kind of get us out of the way. But I think you need to look at that as a badge of honor, as a badge of how effective you are being right now, how powerful our agenda is, that they are really working overtime to white us out, or green us out, or whatever. That is a badge of honor. We need to stand up with the courage of our convictions, and out of a spirit of love, sisterhood, brotherhood, community, which can be hard at times, I know. But there are wonderful skills and tools out there that can help us be the leadership that destiny needs right now. So we need to step up to the plate. There is no substitute.
Thank you. One last one last question was, when we all agree that we have a new place for getting more constituents to our party, and that is those who just woke up last week who found out that their houses are on fire, their money is gone, and their children are committing suicide. They just woke up to realize their party has betrayed them. We have every right to say, told you. We have every right to say, we told you this years ago. But we have to choose, as you said. We're going to do this, we're going to fix this, but it's going to have to be from love. And that's the only place we can do it from. So can you at least give us a really good indication that this is the right way to do it, all of us, from love. We have to love them because they're hurting right now. We need to love them, and that conversation has to happen because they're fraught with disillusionment, mental anguish, anger, but they're looking for a home and they're not finding it. So how do we have that conversation with them since they've been so adversarial all this time?
Yes. I go back to Martin Luther King a lot for, the highest words of wisdom and example for how we reach out to our community. Let me also give you a really kind of a much smaller example, but it's very contemporary. Recently, the Extinction Rebellion, which is people of all ages really who have woken up to the fact that, that we're all going down with this shit together and we don't have time, So it's kind of a more, academic or middle class movement or something, but not necessarily. And so they're out putting their bodies on the line right now, inspired by MLK, inspired by Gandhi, and they offer the police, for example, chocolate. They carry chocolate with them, and their lines are like, well, we're here for your kids too. And so they managed not to get their heads bashed in. They managed to get arrested well over 1,000 people in London, and they managed to get a declaration of a climate emergency out of Parliament. Now, that's just words. We need to see who is behind it. But clearly history is full of examples where you can disarm your enemy. Chris Hedges tells the story too about in East Germany when just before the wall came down, that the democracy movement was despairing and thinking they would never make forward progress. And they were having marches, weekly marches with mothers and strollers and grandmas, and it was a community event with flowers and baby carriages. And at the end of the day, what really saved their neck, because the leader at one point called out the troops, and the troops were told to fire, and the troops refused to fire, and basically the government fell. And you hear about this often, that you need to have the police on your side, which can be a very frightening thing to contemplate, and how do you get there? And this is not to say that that there are not, what should we say, there are not cases in which resistance is really important, but to have an overarching concept of building love, building community, building solidarity, particularly among communities of struggle, and then disarming your predator. There's no way that we can take up arms and face off with the U.S. government. That's not going to happen. And even for those who advocate arms, we could have a long debate about that. But at the end of the day, they got way more arms than we do, and I think there's a lot to be said for the power, the overwhelming power of love and community and having the strength of our own convictions and coming at this with all of the heart and the soul that we can imagine with Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and the history of the civil rights movement front and center in our minds to inspire us in the struggle forward. So thanks to all of you for being such an inspiration, and I really look forward to our continuing work together. So I'm going to give you all hugs goodbye and urge everyone to stay tuned for a really exciting debate. We have some wonderful presidential candidates who have an awful lot to say, who could be very much a part of this really critical mobilization that's happening right now. So, thank you all so much. Keep up the fight, forget the lesser evil, and fight for the greater good. You got the power.
That's a fail.
All right, we're gonna have that, Bill. You have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I know. Don't ever. I got knew she was talking to somebody.
That's what the actors say, right? The kids are on
Right.
on stage every time.
That was classic.
Throw that table leg. Throw that table leg.
Who's in that box?
That
I know.
There you go.
FaceTime with her.
Yeah.
He's one.
Okay. I got some call right now. The mother is there in a while.
Once I get the up, I got you ready. I wanted to say a couple words at the co-chair will us.
Andrea. Yes. A minute. You'll be on in a minute. Oh, okay. All right.
All right, Andrea. I'm going to be taking as a local, speaking first,
Okay.
and then we're getting you. All right.
Oh, you are representing.
He's making some good ones, I think.
Yes, you are.
Maybe I can work it out. I can't hear the
Okay.
Say you gotta turn it on.
It works. Yeah. I know. It's all.
Wherever you want. I did one man. Represent right here.
Staff.
So this actually.
We're gonna do a last call on the buffet. It's like a chicken campaign, you go look out, get local meetings.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if anybody's trying to get local meetings here, but I've got some.
Take time.
And we've been talking on that we gotta get it back up.
Are you on the road right now?
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, that's a hard act to follow. You're on.
Where's your cat?
Welcome everyone to Candidates Night, and welcome to New Smyrna Beach, the shark fight capital of America. Careful when you're swimming. My name is Steve Baker, and I'm a 20-year veteran of the party. I think I go back, Howie and I probably go back to about the same time. I was at the 2000 convention, which was a pretty high point for the party at that time, in Denver, Colorado, and we nominated Ralph Nader for president. Pretty outrageously great. Anyway, it's an honor to have our candidates tonight. And we are going to have Howie, and I thank you, Howie, for traveling to our sunny Florida shores. And the three other candidates are going to be Skyping in, correct?
Right.
And then, okay, we wanted to do a little quick thing real quick, we lost one of our greens locally, and this guy, I'm going to pass this around. His name is Walter D. Young, and Walt was a union organizer in the old days. He died at 89 years young, and he just left the world a few months ago, so he's still fresh in our minds. And I'm going to tell you one little story about Walt. He was a union organizer and an environmental activist. And he once told me with a little smirk that both the Mafia and the CIA had a hit out on him, and he actually survived both. Right?
Right.
That's right. So he was a hell of a guy, and we're going to miss him. So just 15 seconds.
Yeah.
We could have 15 seconds of silence starting now. Rest in peace, Walt. We'll do our best to cover for you. Okay, I'd like to turn over the microphone now to Sonny. Thank you all.
Well, one quick thing about Walt, that peace wall right there was made by, that's Walt's peace wall. And so this connection between him and this place too. A lot of pro-peace conversation.
So you want me to
Introduce yourself, give a little
Okay. So, hey everybody, my name is Andrea Merida, and I'm actually here wearing 3 hats at the same time. First, I'm actually a colleague of LeBeau's and Robbins as the co-chair of the Green Party of Colorado. I'm also here as one of the national co-chairs of the Green Party of the United States. And I'm also here with Howie Hawkins as one of his staffers. So just real quick, and he's going to say his own thing. I'm set up over there. I would love to have your email address. I have donation slips over there. I don't know if you recognize that Howie wrote a Bible about independent politics that we all should have. We've got it for sale over there at the table, so come and talk to me. And some flyers that you can take with you and spread around as well. But I wanted to tell you that I really, really appreciate the work that you all have done here in the Green Party of Florida, because there was a time where things were not as smooth as today, right? And what I saw today was politics, right? People really trying to understand not only the climate crisis, not only the challenges in your local communities, but really what it is that you need to do about it, right? And so what I see is a state party that is embracing even more the concepts of internal democracy. Because before we go out and build relationships with the community and to bring people in, because that's really what organizing at its core is. It's just about building relationships, showing up, right? Having conversations, understand what people are dealing with, help them in their own project. Then you can have the conversation about joining the Green Party. But unless you have your relationships dealt with here internally via democratic action, clean bylaws, following some rules here and there, and agreeing on those rules democratically, you can't really have the structure to go out and do those relationship building when you're out there. So I'm really, really excited about the potential of what I see, because you all are taking care of that. So it's an inspiration, and I'm going to go around the country and tell people about what you all are doing here, and you should feel proud about that. So I want to thank you for all coming and doing that. Well, thank you very much for coming, and my name is Olivia Sunny Freeman, The reason why I'm here as your moderator tonight is I ran for office at one time, and I ran for U.S. Congress. It was an incredible experience, one that I will never, ever do again. But what I did learn, though, was that there is a process that we all as Greens should know. And tonight, I'd like to wrap. This is really not a debate where we're going to ask you to think about the person you're going to vote for. What I'd really rather you to think of is how vast the Green Party is. I was having a dress relation. I had all kinds of different colors of green, dark green, light green, blue green, yellow green. But just to show you that that's really what we are. We are the one place where you can be all those different versions of green and still be a part of our party. And we love you. So as you listen to these different answers to these questions, don't think of that guy, I want to vote for that one, or I want to vote for this one. Really think of how diverse we are, that we can actually rally so many people because we are so many people. We are the 99%, we are. So let's know that we have that power, and these people are going to show us through where they are in the party, what they stand for in the party. Surely there's a person that you can connect to in there. That's a beautiful thing. So, without further ado, what I want to talk about is these people you know. And honestly, I have to admit, I'm a newbie. I'm a baby greenie. So I had to do an awful lot of work to find what these people are and what makes them different. But I did. And it's really something that I want to share with you because they're not all the same. They're incredibly diverse. So, to Howie, he believes in socialism from below. I was reading a Black Agenda report, and he was saying that we cannot be herded. They're hurting us Greens, and they're making us like the Democratic thing. We're not going to put up to that. Climate change is the outcome of the fate of what's going to happen to humanity. So as a statement, I'm going to ask you to expound on that. But the fact is that it's not the end-all, be-all. It's the result of the work. So that's something that we have to start with, is working, and he has a plan, as we all know, to make that happen. And climate change is what you get, or climate change reality is what you get at the end. So it's very interesting how he puts it. And then, of course, Sudanam, who I just met last night. Hello! Sudanam, I found out, she believes that we have to be trained. There is something that we can all do that would be very effective in our counties, in our state organizations. And so she believes that there should be some training that we go. I agree with that. I come from human resources. She also believes that there's an issue with this white privilege kind of thing. That it's real, more so in the rest of the world than we actually know, because the rest of the world gets it. At COP24 and the other COP meetings where they're talking about climate change, one of the first things they talked about was the 5 countries that really kind of have it all up. And guess what? We were one of them. So we are not, who said it? Black folks, y'all shouldn't be mad at us. We haven't been in charge of anything. That being said, then that you have to go back and look at our history has allowed us to feel that we can go out and have dominion over everything and do whatever it takes because it serves me. That's not everybody's mindset. So, what she's saying, and I'm going to let her finish that conversation, is we have to apologize to the world for that theology. The rest of the world will let us off the hook if we just admit our wrongs. So that's a big piece of where we're going to have to go in order to be thought of not as an adversary to the rest of the world. We're going to do that. So she's going to talk about that. I hope she's going to talk about that. Reparation was something I learned about. And that becomes a framing issue because everyone says, reparation? I'm not giving those people any money. She's got to tell us, though, from a green perspective to the rest of the world, your words have been framed by somebody else. So these are the things that she brings to the table that no, you never hear anywhere else. Anywhere else. This is what makes the Green Party so powerful. Ian, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but he does mention the fact that there is something, a universal basic income, again, framed differently because in Alaska it exists as the what do you call it? It's the native Alaskans have a payment from the oil industry. So they call them PFD checks. My daughter's going to, I have no idea what it means, but that's a way that we could fix some ills. This is a young man that has been working in places where the anti-capitalism movement, he has been active in like Occupy, one of the Occupy movements, so he knows what he's talking about. Dennis is a person that he calls himself the poor people's candidate. How inspirational is that? When 75% of us are below the poverty line, that's a guy that I want to hear from. So he's got a totally different attitude when it comes to national health care. He's talking about the infrastructure, and I want to find out how he feels about smart cities. Because what he's saying is, don't be too fast about having machines control everything. So all I'm saying is, that's who we're talking to tonight, and there's Dario. Dario is the only Green in the room that has actually been elected. He is talking about being the voice of the disenfranchised and the marginalized. He has some ideas on the science. Can we just let them run amok, or do we control them to the fact that they can't do it? Where's the balance? Where's the balance? So those are the things that he brings to the table. I just want to give you an idea. This is the widest gamut you could imagine of candidates for president. But that's what we have. We are very lucky to have that. So, without further ado, I'm going to let's see, the first person I want to talk to actually was Howie. Is Howie in the house?
Before we get started here, I'm going to do a sound check. To my candidates, can you all hear us?
Yes. This is Dennis Lambert, yes.
Hello, Dennis Lambert.
Howdy.
Ian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Outstanding.
Accept them? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Sister Sandman?
Sleep on them all. Hooked up. Send them, can you hear us?
Hello? Pen.
Send them, are you can't seem to hear you.
Reverse. Pen. Okay, thank you.
Can you hear us?
Oh, my pleasure.
Put it closest. Yeah. Oh, I can read it. Put her name. There you go. There you go.
Send them, are you there?
No. Oh,
We can hear her.
Did you see that kitty?
Last time we did this, it was Jill. And what's her name? Bar. Oh, boy. Crazy.
All right, you guys start. I'm going to call her.
Roseanne.
then I will.
I
think I've got the view.
This one?
Might have to tilt or stay in the view.
Good, yes.
A little over that way.
Okay. I'm looking at this one.
Oh, well, how about between the screen and Howie?
Wait a minute. Well, hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Actually, you are excellent. I have to just shake your hand as co-founder of our entire I had no idea. So please, I am very impressed.
It
wouldn't be here. I mean, we had an idea, but it wouldn't be here. We don't know what you're doing. So, you give yourself.
Understood. The things I mentioned, like I said, I'm a baby green, so I had to really find out who this is and what this is, because everybody said, oh, you're just a tree hugger. And I thought, well, I'm okay with that, but there's got to be more. You know, this has been going on for a long time, and so as I really got into what it is, because this is the same question that everyone else is going to have out there as we try to bring them in. So educating myself was, now I realize that's what I'm going to have to do to them in order to get them to understand what we're doing. So, without further ado, I wanted to find out, there is an issue of our freedom. This is really about our freedom when it comes down to it. We have the opportunity in this new era to take back our freedom at a very fundamental level and change some things systemically. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, how do you intend to get, this is what I just said actually, how do you intend to get these people to become part of that, to see that this is their new home?
Well, the immense majority in the society is the working class, and it's multiracial. People have different experiences depending on their background, but we also have common interests. And the two capitalist party system represents the rich folks, their interests. They exploit the rest of us. We need our own party. And so that's the campaign I want to run. We know what we're for. We're for the Green New Deal. We're for reparations. We're for Medicare for all. We can argue with the details, but we know the basic direction. We also know the Democrats ain't going to give us Medicare for all. They ain't going to give us a Green New Deal. They don't know what to do with reparations. And you go right on down the list. They give more money to the Pentagon than they ask. Trump wants to go to Venezuela, and the leadership of the Democratic Party says, we're with you. So we need an alternative. The question is, how do we get power? Hello, can you hear me? And that's why we got to be, look, the Greens around the country, we know as activists. We show up. People want us, they want us to know what's going on because we'll show up and help out. But what we need to do better is be organized. What a party does that none of these English groups do is we bring people together, we relate the issues, and put them in a larger framework. So then we can build a broader movement. We have over 100 elected officials. You know, the Socialist Alternative saying, we got Shauna Sawan in Seattle. Congratulations, Shauna. You got one elected. We got over 100. But there are 500,000 plus elected general government offices in this country. Most of them are local. There are 50 state legislatures, and there's Congress and federal government. So instead of 100 officials, we should come out in 2020 with a few thousand. Yes. And by 2022, tens of thousands. And build ourselves into a major party, because what's missing now is not the solutions. We had them when Ralph Nader ran, what the brother raised earlier. You know, Ralph used to say that. We got solutions. The basic problem of politics in this country is what the people want doesn't get translated into public policy. Yes. Remember that oligarchy study a few years ago? They looked at the average person and what the elite wanted. And if there was a dispute in Congress, the elite always got what they wanted. So we got to organize. So that's about getting ballot lines. That's about building up our own financial base. I mean, we have a national party with less staff than a poor nonprofit in a inner city neighborhood. We got to build up so we have staff that can support us in our organizing. So we want to, in this campaign, help people become better organized, and then support local candidates. Yes. You know, I've been talking to people here down in Florida. To have a national campaign that's effective at the president's level, we got to have boots on the ground, legs to the campaign. You should run for Congress again. Don't one time now. They made me run 25 times. I wasn't planning to run for president. You can at least give us 1 or 2 more shots, okay? So that's what we want. We need a lot of people running, talking to the voters, we're taking names, we're building our lists, and then we're continuing communication with them. So we don't just show up at election time, but they know what we're up to all the time and they can get involved. So you didn't give me a time limit, so you better stop me before I get involved.
You're doing great, you're doing great. And, she's not here, so I was going to...
No, wait, we're going to call her.
Okay.
You can talk to her, but we can hear her, she just can hear us.
Oh, all right. Then Dario, is it Dario?
Dario's not here.
Okay, no, but Ian is. Ian, I want to ask you about the future because you are, as I understand, the youngest person that is running right now. And I would like to just assume, which is wrong, but I want to assume that you have at least reached out to some of the younger groups that I know that were on your support list. So can you tell us what we can look for from these young people in terms of how they're approaching the Greens? Are they approaching the Greens? Are you having any kind of pushback from them? What's up?
Sure, it's a little hard to hear you. For some reason, you were perfect before we first started, and now it's gone down quite a bit. But I'll try to respond as best I can based on what I've heard. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah.
Am I better now?
Okay. Well, sure. So I really appreciate you pointing that out, and I'm so grateful to the Green Party of Florida for having me on here today via Skype. Calling in my campaign tour bus RV. We're heading back down to the Baltimore, D.C. area. So I've been asked to speak at a really important rally coming up. Otherwise, I'd be down there with you. My father actually lives right in Titusville, an hour from you all, so I'm so disappointed I can't be there in person. So I really appreciate you having me Skype in. It's really nice to see everyone there. Yeah, I'm so glad you pointed out that, yes, I am one of the youngest candidates. I'm probably the youngest candidate running for president, period, I believe. I started this campaign when I was 33 years old. I then turned 34, which I am right now, and I'll be 35 in December. Just getting under the cutoff for what a presidential candidate would be. Otherwise, you would be bounced out of the election. So I'm really proud of representing the millennials and months like that. That is one of the biggest reasons I decided to run for office. I've already run a couple times. I know I'm young. I have. I've run for Congress against Doug Christopher, who's a Democrat and is completely pro-spying. He's absolutely awful. And he famously said, I got to debate him once on stage and said, you called Edward Snowden a liar. And he said, no, I called him a traitor. And I at least got him to, kind of mess up with some of these like ridiculously conservative policies the Democrats are actually pushing out there. I then ran for city council in Baltimore. I came in second place in a four-way race. I was really proud to raise about $25,000. My opponent raised about $100,000. And we still did really, really well in the election, and I'm really proud of that. What I'm most proud about is the fact that after I lost that race, I looked around in Baltimore City, and I said, some of my supporters, one of them in particular, her name is Reverend Annie Chambers, and she was getting nowhere running for the seat, very important seat called a RAD delegate, Resident Advisory Board, the HUD position. And whoever gets this really important seat in Baltimore City, and in every public housing project across the country, actually gets to then represent their public housing project to the Ben Carson Trump administration down in D.C. It's really important. So myself and a bunch of other Greens, we actually went out there and made sure that she had a full, fair election. They were pulling all kinds of crazy, dirty tricks against her. They sent notices out to everyone in the development, the public housing project, that the election was on a different day than they actually said it was. They put signs up pointing a different way than the voting booth. And then we found out her opponent was in the voting booth telling people to vote for them. So of course, we took them out of the voting booth and said, be a fair election. And so she won that election. I was wildly happy to actually have her win the election. Now, she's one of the only elected Greens who currently have an office in Maryland at the time. And that story, the story that I gave you from Baltimore, Maryland, where I'm from, is what I want to do to the Green Party throughout the country. I want to focus on issues that have been completely overlooked by the Democrats and the Republicans. I want to make sure they know that we stand for them and by them.
Ian, can you say that again? You were saying that you had a plan for helping the people that aren't normally running. What group was that we said?
Yeah, some little group happening with the Skype call here. Getting another call at the same time. Okay, but what I was saying was that was the whole thing. Okay, so they you. What I was saying was that actually, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, what I was saying was that actually going into communities that are overlooked by the Democratic Party Native peoples, or especially people in public housing. That relative part. And the other reason that I'm running is that I also prepared this GSA. I'm endorsed by, there we go, I can kind of see now. Still hear a lot of static though.
Oh, no worries. Here's what we're really trying to ask you is, what is your strategy for party building in the States and your, and ballot access?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that I actually worked with the DSA for quite some time. The DSA does endorse some Greens along with some Democrats. And when I worked with the DSA, one of the things we saw was the more local Greens that got elected, more local candidates got elected, the bigger and bigger and bigger that organization grew. And so that's exactly my strategy for the Green Party. We have got to get more Greens elected, no matter what board that is, no matter if it's someone on a water board, someone on a city council, someone on a county, someone in the dog patch. It's incredible that it's really important that we have to get Greens elected. And then once we have Greens elected, that's what we do. That's how we actually build the party from there. We have to attract people with our message, but also by showing that we're going to do the work on the ground, actually getting new folks out. You know, I'm seeing the Green Party not necessarily expand is a polite way to say it. I'm very concerned about that. We have to make sure that we are growing this party. If we don't grow the party, you know, we're really just talking to ourselves.
That sounds like an adequate way to describe it. However, we do appreciate that that's a strategy to look at every single solitary office and put someone in there. So to that, I'd like to ask Dennis, when you look at what our party is, we now also know that 60% of these people that are out there are looking for another party. So when we talk about really segmenting the market, how do you suggest that I really believe that we're going to have to speak to those people who have been disenfranchised by the other corporate parties. That's going to be a different conversation. This question is to Dennis. That's going to be a very different question. So what's your strategy going to be to deal with those people?
Unfortunately, you know, the luxury of the Democrats and Republicans is that they always have the so-called free press to cover their campaigns, no matter what little stop they make at McDonald's to drink coffee with old folks or visiting an insulation factory. So one thing we need to do is start making bold actions in public for people to see us as candidates. Obviously, I want to encourage as many people to run as possible. Ian, I have followed Ian's last couple races. He may not know this, but I've been on his email list for a while. I ran in 2010 and 2014 and 2016 for Congress and State House. So I know how hard it is to get the media to cover a campaign. So what we really need to do is just go out there and talk to people one-on-one, no matter where they are, wherever they congregate. If it's in front of a grocery store, that's where you need to go talk to the people. If they're waiting in line at the Suboxone clinic, then you need to go talk to those people in line and say, hey, here's what the Green stand for. We believe in Medicare for all, so you don't have to go to jail and to be on probation to get the Medicare that you need to overcome your addiction. You know, there's other ways that we can go about it, and it begins at the ballot box. In my state, I don't know. I know in Florida, you guys, and I applaud you so much for getting that the felony overturned so much. But you know, I see your state legislature is also trying to backpedal on that as well. But in my state, I inform everybody who has a felony that they are eligible to vote in the state of Ohio as long as they're not in jail. And they need to make sure that their voice is heard, because there's not many felons out there that are voting. There's not many poor people like myself that are out there voting. You know, there's not many people of color out there voting. And we just need to go out and talk to people wherever they congregate. And if we can make those connections electronically and then in person, that makes it so much easier to grease the wheels that way.
But you were saying at the beginning that our mainstream media is really where we're having the most difficulty. So
absolutely.
What the question that was brought to me for you is we understand that this, if I were a member of the mainstream media, he would ask you. It all sounds great to make sure we have the media on our side, but how are we going to pay for it? Go ahead and answer that question, but I have another question for you that I wanted to ask first.
Well, yeah,
How
see,
are we going to pay for it?
that's the catch-22 that the media usually issue with is they're not going to cover your campaign unless you buy ads off it. So the only way to really get their attention is to show up at the debates where, if you aren't invited, I showed up for one debate, and unfortunately I did not make a big enough scene when I was there to be recognized. But every other debate that I've gone to, it usually ends up either the Democrat or the Republican ends up taking my talking points and using that in their campaign because we have good ideas.
All right, let me go to the question I wanted to ask you originally, my own question, and that was, we actually, as Greens, are utilizing networks that are not controlled by the industrial complex. We just had a meeting today at a community center. They don't run that. They don't own that. So our network is actually working. Can I suggest, or how do you feel about looking at these non-networks networks? And somebody just gave me a radio station back 2 months ago. A radio station. So there must be many, many more of these low-power stations that we can add to our network. How would you feel about putting that kind of network in place so we don't have to go crawling to them for time on the air?
You're breaking up, but I believe you're asking about networking and working outside of our normal social networks, and absolutely that is something we need to do. When I was on the Greenpeace Central Committee, I became a member of the Single Payer Action Network here in Ohio. It's our own Medicare for All program that we've made quite a few strides in actually getting legislation in the House and at least to committees. So those connections certainly, but I'm always looking for friends where you might expect foes. I sometimes will listen to Rush Limbaugh to see what he's talking about, just to understand the mentality of the other side, because really they're not the other side. They just believe that they're against us, but they're for us in so many different areas.
Thank you.
Especially when it comes to pay equity.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I'm hoping that someone is taking notes on this. These are things that I really have been very interested in. For Ian, I'd like to ask you, I remember you said somewhere that you were talking about the military. Okay, good, thank you. You were talking about the military and how we're going to kind of back pay for all of our carbon emission limiting activities. So is it still your contention that we can utilize that money from the military to do that?
On his end.
Having a little bit of trouble hearing you, I apologize. But I think you're asking about the military being one of the largest polluters, not just in the U.S., but on the face of the planet. So it's sort of a very easy solution, and I think the Green Party is the only one that really talks about this. If you cut the military budget, if you bring troops home, if you bring our equipment home, and actually focus that more of a peacetime effort, like Peace Force, like Dennis Kucinich used to talk about, I think that you would instantly see a drastic cut in the carbon emissions that America puts off. And on top of that, free up literally billions of dollars, probably trillions, because a lot of the military budget is unaccounted for and not responsible for them at all. And that money could be used easily to pay for what I'm calling for, which is a universal basic income. So to me, that's kind of an obvious one. And, it comes right from my learning and thoughts on the Green Party platform.
Well, that's great because, like I said in the very beginning, that's one of the things that makes us so diverse, is that's a piece of it that no one else has brought up. To that, I'd like to ask Sunam, for gaining a larger population of Greens, I heard you say that we have to be better ambassadors. Can you expound on that and tell me more about some of the social and political intersections that we need to make?
Well, first of all, happy 27th anniversary, Florida. You've been doing a great agree. I know that we as a national party have not made it important to put training of us as green ambassadors. Everywhere we go, we represent not only our national party, but the other 89 nations of greens around the world. So we as green individuals have to be real clear that we represent not our individual selves, but our principles, our values, and our planet. So when we have that mindset, we have to not be so nutty. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Somehow, I initially, when I ran for VP in 2008, my family said to me, "You gotta straighten your hair, sister. People think y'all tree huggers." It freaked me out. But these are like progressive, educated black folks that said that to me, your sister, who they love, that you all have an image problem. So even though we all care and love those things, first and foremost, we have to understand who we are, our anniversaries, the nations, our wins. There's no single issue. Everything is intersected. So if we present ourselves knowledgeable about what we do know, and then ensure that we know someone else in the Green Party in the 90 nations who can address that person's issue or problem, we already got a win.
Which brings me to how are we going to communicate that? Because just because we know, how are we going to show it to other people?
Oh, we got a system. More than 1,000 green have held craft, which I emailed to all of us, Green Positioning System 2020. It's 21 clear points that we can agree on. Real simple. Ballot access in 21 points. I can't say them all. But there's a system already set up that I will send this to anyone, our campaign, so that we have a clear understanding. We can raise money so that we can do ads. We can raise money so that we can do A, B, C, and D. Look what I just started off with, your anniversary. If every Green Party presidential candidate went to every state that we celebrated anniversary, having 5 presidential candidates show up to celebrate gives us press.
Gives us power. That's one of the things we were talking about at the very, very beginning is this one. I want this to be a training center, a training session. So as everyone goes and leaves and goes home, the bunch of you that are here will make us, inspire us to take these training parts and go and use them, because we really need to know what you guys have in mind for us, what tools we have. Now, this question is to Ian about your universal basic income. How does that differ from the guaranteed work at a living wage concept?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I was just talking to someone today about this. A work guarantee or job guarantee is not the same thing as a basic income. A basic income means you give at least $1,000 a month to every single person in the country, and it's really what we do immediately is we give money into the world and let them choose what they want, spend the money on. Just think about that. $1,000 a month for you to choose what you want to do. It's sort of like Social Security, literally everyone in the country would get it. It's very different than a job guarantee, though, because first of all, a basic income that I'm calling for $1,000 a month is bonds. It wouldn't necessarily mean everyone's going to quit their job right now.
Right.
But it would definitely help you if your family's struggling with a hard time. Plus, families know what they need to spend money on. Is it groceries? Is it rent? Is it the electric bill? As long as the government will tell us, this is that thing. The other reason that I'm calling for a basic income over a job guarantee is that not everyone can work. If you walk through a public housing project, you will see senior citizens, disabled folks, moms with infant babies. How are these people supposed to live? And then all of a sudden, if you tell them this job guarantee is going to get money that way, then they got what we call means testing. Things has to be necessary, paper after paper, proving that they're actually poor enough to get the assistance. That's not the way I want this country to go. I want to make sure every single person, no matter where they are in their life, no matter what they're struggling with, whether they're in public housing, if they're having problems, whether they're middle class, the lower class, or somewhere in between, like we all are, basically, as the middle class is shrinking. It's really important that we say, you know what's best for you and your family. Here's $1,000 a month to help make it easier.
Well, thank you very much. Now, Dennis, we've asked you earlier about the infrastructure, but I'd like to know how you would plan to work the infrastructure. Are you interested in the smart cities concept, where everything is all automated and connected electronically through the Internet of Things and things like that? Is that one of your solutions? Do you propose that as a solution, or is it something else?
I think that's a good idea, but we certainly have to have smarter networks to begin with, as well as enclosed networks. If we're going to have that type of thing, something that, unhackable has a totally different code than most people are used to dealing with. I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I was trained in how to repair computers back in the early mid-90s, so my tech stuff is not up to snuff as, I don't have my nerd pedigree up. But I do know that if we do go to a smart city, we have to have an enclosed network with limited access. That way we don't have, like we have now, where China and Russia are in our power grid right now and can control us, shut us down at any second that we think about it. My concept of a renewable infrastructure building is more about having generated electricity in the cities and used for the cities. You look behind me, there's the Ohio River in Ironton, Ohio. I don't know if you know this, but there's about 28 dams on the Ohio River. The government spends more money regulating river traffic. Out of those 28 dams, only 14 generate electricity, and only 5 of them generate electricity for more than just the dams and locks that they operate. We have, I forget, 192 miles of Ohio River that we can generate electricity off of there. In Florida, you got coastal tides, as well as, sun. Where else does anybody go to Florida except for sun and Disneyland and escaping child support?
It's embarrassing.
Sure.
We
we have lots of resources around us that we can use to actually generate jobs in a local economy, generating electricity for local governments and local people. And having a smarter grid that way, that we don't have the whole eastern seaboard knocked down from a hurricane, or have the state of Texas go out, or suffer another embarrassment of the Super Bowl going by.
No, not have that. No. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Dennis. Howie, I've been asked, there is the job guarantee and the idea of the universal basic income. Yes? Can you, like I said, I'm a newbie. Can you explain that better to me? I couldn't.
Aquaboat.
Okay.
Aquaboat is like the March on Washington in 1963 for jobs and freedom.
Yes.
Freedom budget, poor people's campaign was for both. The slogan back then was jobs or income now. As Ian pointed out, not everybody can work. They're too young, they're too old, they're sick. They got young children they ought to be taken care of. They got elders they ought to be taken care of. So you've got to have a guaranteed income above poverty. There's different ways of doing that. You can do a basic income grant like Ian talked about. I think that should be in the tax base. So if you're a rich person, you pay it back in taxes. I think the simpler way is just put it into the tax structure. You fill out your taxes. If you're below the income line, then you get a monthly check until the next year when you fill out your taxes. And that way, even if you're working in your low wage, you get it topped up so you get enough money so you can pay your bills. But people that want to work, they have a work ethic in the society. People, they feel like they're pulling their weight. It's a matter of self-esteem as well as making money. And when you're contributing, you learn what you do it well. It's a matter of just being a part of society and feeling good about yourself. So I think anybody that wants to work and contribute to our well-being should have the opportunity to do so. So the way I want to do that is like the old Works Progress Administration during the Depression. And that was local communities develop plans. Public services, public works, infrastructure, everything the community needs. And if you're unemployed, you don't go to the unemployment office to get an unemployment check. You go to the employment office. And the jobs are there on the shelf. Federal government provides 90% of the funding. You have local government shipping 10%. So they're not boondoggles.
Right.
And what they do is what the community is deciding they want done. Whether it's more supervision in the park for the kids, more better pay for the child care workers and the prepaid people, or for the elder program, or to get those sewers fixed that are backing up into your basement. Whatever it is, the community decides, and if people want to work, we should help us meet those needs.
But can we do that at $9 an hour, or were we going to have to go to the living wage of at least 15?
20. I'm for a living wage, minimum wage of $20 an hour, indexed to inflation and productivity.
And that's all the small businesses are going to say, oh, but I can't afford that. And you want it for full-time workers that do have to pay health care. I can't afford it. I'm going to have to raise my rates. How do you answer that?
Some of that will come out of the owner's draw on the business. But as Franklin Roosevelt said in the height of the Depression, if you can't afford to pay your workers a living wage so they can pay their bills, maybe you shouldn't be in business. And when people are wage laborers, you know, when people got free from slavery, they didn't want to go back on a plantation and work for a wage. They called that wage slavery. They said, I want 40 acres of mule. I want to work for myself. And some of them formed cooperatives. You know, at Davis Bend in Mississippi, where, you know, old man Jefferson Davis' brother had the plantation during the Civil War. After he mortgaged it to the former slave there who organized a cooperative farm. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Reconstruction government was overthrown by violence, not an election, or at least an election where everybody could vote, that colony was doing well economically. It just got destroyed. So what I'm saying is, we got to set up a system where people are working for themselves, either in small businesses for themselves or in larger businesses collectively through cooperatives.
Which brings me how well, you must have been reading my notes. Ian, Susan, I'm sorry. I want to ask you, right now I come from the Space Coast, right down the road here, and everybody is asking about the space industry, as though it's going to save us. Well, it may help the economy, but only for us here in Florida, in our area. So as a national plan, I don't think we're going to get space as the big helper. What I do believe, though, and tell me how you feel about this, is the SBA is a non-used asset that really has all of the building parts to build all these small businesses that will be able to start at $20 an hour, have it worked into their budget, have the ability to hire more people, so forth and so on. Do you believe that that would be a very good use of our time as Greens to at least be the person that has those boot camps, or let people know where those boot camps are to start businesses so we can employ more people at the grassroots level? Susan, are you still there?
I'm here and I'm a little confused. Because one, I just got, asked two questions. I've been on hold for an hour. So I don't know what has actually taken place and where we're heading. I don't mind speaking about that, but, our campaign talks about positioning Green Party. Because on your website in Florida, you only have 7,000, under 8,000 members listed. So I thought that this topic was about strategizing how to grow the Green Party in Florida as well as nationally. So I'm a little confused.
Well, let me rephrase the question then. Because what I'm saying is, a lot of the people would listen to us talk. They all think that we're just a bunch of tree huggers. Let me just put it out there like that. They don't understand that we do understand business. We do understand what it takes to start businesses. We know what it takes to ramp up an economy, and that is small business. We have the asset of the SBA, and no one is using it. So I'm saying, why would you instigate the Greens to utilize the assets that we have to grow our businesses from the grassroots the way we could if we used our own SBA? That would grow our party in terms of the counties as well as getting candidates to run.
Here, here. If the green positioning system was listed number 19, says Green Party, nonprofit, business model canvas. Yes. He was a co-founder of the wine and wine industry of Ghana. So I'm a business person.
Right.
I believe in cooperatives. I believe in small business. And the Green Party has to look at itself long-term as a sort of business. We're in the business of saving the planet. So we need to understand that was an excellent suggestion. I'm in full support of it. But like in business, you have to know what your foundation is. You gotta know what your target in a business model campus.
Yes.
They have 9 different sections. So we have to organize ourselves strategically and tactically. We have to win votes. Those are our customers. So that is a part of what our campaign has been focusing on. Green Party positioning system. 19, Green Party business model campus. So all those things are in place. So let's all agree on the point, like you mentioned, that we can all move forward together on. Green Party positioning system. I believe in the Green Art campaign. We're believing in system change, not a new deal. So we come with a whole class of understanding about economics that benefits the earth, the planet.
But we don't. That's our whole problem, is that I'm not a business, well, I happen to be personally a business person, but my neighbor isn't. She's a person who does dog walking, and she doesn't think that she knows enough, so she's not going to come over here to the Green Party because, well, she doesn't know how to do whatever she thinks that people need to do. What I'm saying is, in addition for us looking at ourselves as a business, we also have to be an asset to show other people that we get business. In order to grow the economy, we know that it's gonna, when Howie was talking about what we're going to do with the deal is to have the jobs. If we continue what we're doing, it's going to be using the same industrial complex that we've always used. We as Greens have to build a new one, and that's going to require us showing people that you can control your own outcome by starting your own companies. Wouldn't you agree that that's part of our mission is to do that?
My sister for the 3rd time, yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I said yes 3 times.
Okay, all right.
But a system is a system. Just like the planet, Earth, Moon, Sun, stars. And economies have to have value for everything. Capitalism is barbaric. All these industries that use our technology through tax dollar research, they don't pay for that. There's no value added to what they take. Cell phones, everything that's doing great, they use tax dollars, but they don't put a value on the research. So in capitalism, that's what happens. Within the green system change, everything, especially the water, the plants, people have a value. So we need a system change. What you were saying about folks not valuing themselves, and what other folks talked about, minimum wage, minimum income, all those things about changing capitalism. It's a system change. I get it. Probably more than anyone. As someone who look at this, in Africa, there's 19 nations that grow grapes to make wine. There's no Pan-African wine industry. Guess who started it?
You did.
Me.
I remember.
Because I know how to do economic system.
But is that on your website? Is that on your website?
No.
Well, then put it on your website.
Because I'm not trying to claim it.
Soon now.
I am sent to cities. I'll send it to anybody. Because it's a part of development. You see, change takes time. So it's audience. It takes time to read, think, and plan. But we put it up to be a centerpiece workshop at the A&M, the Salem. It wasn't chosen, but guess what? We're going to do it anyway. Because if you don't understand economics, it's system. Because capitalism is a system.
I agree.
But you don't understand it.
I said yes.
I sent it to Steve, I'll send it to you. It'll blow you away.
Stop. I said yes. Is that you? Here's what I want to say. Thank you. Here's what I want to say. This goes out because, Howie, this question says, given that your changes of being elected president are not great, they're not that big Roosevelt thing, why is it that you're still running? That question I want to ask to Dennis. Dennis, did you hear me?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so why are you running? That's the question. Why are you running?
Because I'm crazy. I'm crazy because there's not enough representation, honestly, of the people who I want to represent, and that is poor people, minorities, veterans, people who are underrepresented everywhere. That's why I run every time. I may not be the face of the people who I represent, but I can at least, bring their message to the forefront and do everything I can to make sure that their voices are represented, and not only in their specific issues, but in economic issues and healthcare issues.
So what you're really saying is you want...
the civil rights issues, and we really need to keep working on those civil rights issues, As far or as close as Martin Luther King probably was to the mountaintop, I think we're further away now than we've ever been.
What you're trying to say is
that we can come together and realize that we're all one skin, and it doesn't matter what the tone is, but we all of our bodies are basically the same.
So you
we need to recognize our sameness and ignore the differences and realize that the benefit for you is the same benefit for me if we're working together.
Thank you for that. And Howie, what I want to say to you is you've done so many great things and people know who you are. Granted, we don't believe as a party about a presumptive candidate. However, you have seen some many successes in rallying the people. When you're looking at us here representing our different counties, there's got to be something that you'd like to say to us about what it takes, the grit that it takes to continue the fight and to mobilize and to, like Jill Stein said, it's not mobilization time anymore, baby. It's all about organizing. And you've obviously been very organized, so what can you impart to us?
I've been involved in movements since the 1960s, and I've been involved in a lot of movements where we started out small. Any Vietnam War movement, real little group of us in 1966. After 10 and 68, everybody said, oh, we'll be all along. Any apartheid movement, after the Soweto massacre of 600 students, we were saying divest and get sanctions against South Africa, and people didn't disagree with us. They just said, they'll never do it. Why should I knock myself out? And then we did some things like a shanty town and spread across the campuses. Then Trans-Africa started doing it for us. And within a year, we overrode Reagan's veto. And that was where our movement just exploded. Anti-nuclear movement, was involved in that. We started out with 7% opposition to nuclear power. 2 years after our first occupation, we went to town meetings. It was 70%. These were rock-ribbed Republicans in New Hampshire.
But you attended, you went there, you gave them your physical body. There's something special about that. It wasn't a lot of this.
Well, that got their attention, but what really persuaded them is we took a resolution at town meeting and said, you shouldn't be paying for this thing before it's even operated. It was called Construction Works in Progress. And very conservative people said, you crazy hippies are right. I don't want to pay for this. We didn't know it's going to work. And the way they regulated power companies back then is you don't pay for the plant until it's up and operating. And that persuaded people, and we had some other issues, like they're drawing down the water table around the loop because it needed so much water for construction. Most recently, we stopped fracking in New York State. Now we're trying to get back. I have to tell you, of all the things I've been involved in, that's the most surprising win to me. Because all of Wall Street, all the Democrats, all the Republicans, Saudi Arabia, China, Europe, they called it the shale play. It was going to be the big money maker. The Obama administration all behind it. And we beat them. So I guess what I want to tell people is, even when people aren't coming out with you, a lot of them are already persuaded. And some of them get persuaded they don't even know it themselves. It's kind of back of their mind. It's like the climate deniers, right? They don't know the science, and they hear the science, but Rush Limbaugh or some crazy person telling it's a hoax, or Donald Trump is a Chinese hoax. And in the back of their mind they're saying, it's probably not true, it is a hoax, it's probably real. And then it's partly just the people around them. And then suddenly public opinion flips. So what I'm saying is, you're winning even though you seem like you're a small group. And the other thing I'll say is another victory. You're talking about Small Business Administration and co-ops. We got a bill passed. It was a senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, that we went to. Member of my local, he's a Small Business Administration business specialist, and he lobbied for it, helped write it. And what it does is provide $500,000 for employee-owned businesses. So now we're using that money to organize work with co-ops in the state of New York. That money is available to you here in Florida. So yes, we're going to build co-ops. We've already got a little money from the feds. We've got to be on a much bigger scale, for sure. So the other thing I'd say is, as I said earlier, as a party, all the issues, we got to help the movements be their voice, help them relate to each other, help them overcome their differences, and be organizers, not just actors.
Thank you very much. Yes.
All right, we're coming to the end of time here. So what I'd like to do is, how is the attendance here at our AMM? And have a chance to speak to us, for most of the day. So I'd like to give each of the candidates who's Skyping in the last word, a minute each, on whatever subject they'd like. So you just choose. Howie has had a chance. I want to give them a chance to catch up a little bit in their messaging with what we know about them. So if you can just choose order for the three of them, and we will.
Yes, I would like to hear from Dennis first, please. A question that you would like to answer to us on your favorite topic, because I want to give you a chance to bring your own message out, please.
Oh, okay. You have a question?
No, it's your question. What would you like to talk about? You've got 1 minute to give me your favorite story. War stories are always best.
Well, I recently got fired from a job that I've done for almost 6 years, but I'm very happy for it because I know I've made a wonderful impact. In December 2017, a Marine Corps veteran came to me and said he wanted to become a yoga instructor. And I said, well, that's quite a different change of pace. He said, well, I've been going through treatment at the VA, and they offer us yoga as alternative treatments, and I found it really useful for my PTSD, for my alcoholism, and a lot of different issues, and I really want to do this. So I said, well, let's work on that, and after finding a school and reaching out to them, and they granted him a scholarship, my company managed to take in another $300, and he had to pay about $300 himself, but last month he just completed his nationally certified yoga instructor. I'm so happy that he was able to do that for himself, but not only that, he wants to do it for himself, but he wants to spread his love of yoga with other veterans so that they can overcome their issues with addiction and PTSD.
That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. People helping people. Sunam, what is your last comment to us to help us become better, bigger? Better is a much better word, actually.
I believe we, as Americans, have to get involved with a couple of things. One is asking questions about who we want to be at 300. No one asked us from the beginning, who do we want to be as Americans? The other thing, as a party, we're a majority European DNA party, American. We have to talk about Indian white privilege. We've made green important. Let's make Indian white privilege a major part of our platform. The other thing is debate. Let's come up with a logical, solid connection to debate so that our party raises the bar for our nation with debating each other about ideas. So people can feel comfortable asking us questions, that what we did today was talk about it, but we didn't debate. There's 3 things I heard that I can point other directions to, but we have to learn to debate. My last point is diversity. America is turning brown. Our party has to come up with a way, and that will be my legacy, creating an institute for folks of color to learn to lead a green nation.
That sounds appropriate. Ian, you have a last minute of. Ian, you have the last minute. Can you give me your favorite war story or a minute of what you'd like to message to the people?
Sure. Yeah. I'll just start by saying thank you again for being part of having Skype in today. This is wonderful. I think for me, it comes down to empowerment. I really want to make sure that everyone across the country, especially those folks that have been left behind by the 2 major parties, feel like the Green Party is there for them. Feel like it's a tool that they could use, and that we represent them. More than that, pulling actually go into their communities, wherever these communities are, and actually help them win the battles that they want to win. It's not about us telling them what to do. It's about us listening to them and then assisting them. That's so very, very important. That's why, for me personally, I'm very excited to keep expanding the Green Party amongst public housing tenants, among people of color, among poor people. I think that's really the we need to go. And my message to millennials is that we are so much closer to being lower income and poor ourselves. But we need these institutions desperately. We need public housing, we need expanded and safe. We need a basic income. We need universal health care. We all know that we may not have a planet if we don't actually change systemically what's going on this planet. But we also know that, especially millennials, that our financial security is out the window. It's not. It's done. It's not the same as our parents. I'm really proud. I'm so honored to be here to help some of you really activate. I'm also proud to be able to fight some Reverend Chambers and myself were the few actual politicians that actually got to stand up at the very front with Reverend Carver and Reverend Jesse Jackson. But I got to meet Reverend Jesse Jackson again, co-deacon Medea Benjamin at the Venezuelan embassy protest. So these are fights that we're standing shoulder to shoulder for, and we could show that new younger millennials are ready to take on the challenge and grow this party bit by bit across the country. And that's what I'm here to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, excuse me. So in wrapping up our evening, I would like to say to our candidates, thank you very much for giving us a portal into your vision, into your strategies, into your mission of how you would be president and how you would encourage us to put our powers together and put our plans together for growing our party. So for you, thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything else that we'd like to say?
No, once again, from the Green Party of Florida, Robin Harris, co-chair.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks, guys. Taking out time to talk with us today, and the everybody yesterday, and we look forward to seeing a spirited primary and supporting whoever the eventual winner is as we move to 2020. You guys have a great night.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks, guys.